Manchester derby this week, and one of the biggest tests in the match, one of the biggest battles, one of the biggest clashes in the game that's going to see the result go one way or the other is how Lisandro Martinez deals with Erling Haaland. And I'm going to tell you, I think he's going to stop him again. Let's get into why then, shall we? So Erling Haaland has been on probably one of the most devastating, if not the most devastating start to the Premier League anyone has ever seen. He's currently on pace to score 50. Yeah, 5-0 Premier League goals this season. No team has managed to stop him from contributing to the score sheet so far in all competitions this season. So it's a bold claim to say Lisandro Martinez is going to stop him, right? Yeah, it is. But I'm saying it. Now, we might have the antidote. And I think that it's doable. Let's get into why. So obviously Haaland hit the ground running this season, 14 goals in just 9 appearances. And he offers a completely different dimension to the final third for Guardiola's team. He's the sort of striker they've never had before. But it doesn't matter if he's isolated for large periods of the game because he's been clinical when the chance has fell to him. Haaland's problem to opposition teams is very obvious. He's got the pace to get in behind. He's got the finishing ability to score from anywhere inside or even just outside the box, and as well as having the physical strength to hold off players or even roll them if they get tight, he is a master of creating half a yard when there shouldn't be one. And typically that's what a lot of City forwards have found themselves up against. Tight defences, maybe even double marked, and a lot of people inside the boxes. City tend to suffocate you with their possession a little bit, which does lead to more players being in the box. Haaland's ability to be able to create something out of nothing and shoot early inside the box before he's able to be closed down has led to a lot of the goals he scored this season. To stop Haaland, opponents have to prevent him from finding space in the penalty box. It's easier said than done. Haaland scored 95% of his goals inside the box this season, last season, and this season has been no different whatsoever. Defenders stand the best chance of stopping Haaland if they can prevent him from entering the box in the first place. And you're like, well, what you're going to do, carry him away? Obviously not. Opposite defences must keep the space between their centre-halves really tight to stop him from sort of bursting through the middle. He's done that more than once already this season. Once he's allowed to build up pace and momentum, he's got the physicality and just the sheer weight behind the guy. He's absolutely massive to just power through, and he's going to be very difficult to stop legally. You're going to have to foul him, which is going to result in penalties due to VAR. You're not even going to get away with a little snide foul on him. Teams that have had success against City this season have managed to push them wide. Even pushing them wide doesn't help because you've got the crossing abilities of the likes of De Bruyne out there, or Cancelo. Haaland's been most effective when he's fed through passes off the left wing, as demonstrated by the location of the assists for him. Cancelo's much more of a danger when he bursts forward on the left rather than Kyle Walker on the right. That could be a contributing factor. So it might not necessarily be that you stop Haaland directly. You might have to try and cut the source off to him. And the source is... It's those around him, but the two main sort of playmakers for Manchester City are Kevin De Bruyne and Cancelo. You can stop them playing, which is, again, easier said than done. You're cutting off the circulation a little bit to where Haaland's going to get the ball. Now, United's secret weapon then against City and against Erling Haaland is the new boy, the new fan favourite, Lisandro Martinez. Look, there is absolutely no doubt in here whatsoever that Erling Haaland is a monster, but history shows us that he's been dealt with in the past. Last season, Martinez made Haaland look a little bit like an afterthought. Martinez came away with man of the match in Ajax's 4-0 demolition of Borussia Dortmund. He had 4 tackles, 4 interceptions, and only 4 shots on target for Dortmund that day, as Haaland didn't get a sniff. Martinez didn't care about the 9-inch height difference, and he ain't going to care about it on Sunday either. The pressure put on Haaland is going to be phenomenal because of his old man's history in this particular game, because of the start he's had to the season, because it's the Manchester derby. All of those things are going to come to a head on Sunday. And Martinez in the last game, he was onto him within a fraction of a second of him touching the ball, and he was dispossessing him just as quickly. He was physical. He was covering. He covered him fantastically. He's more agile than Haaland. Obviously, Haaland being so tall, he's never going to be extremely agile. He's agile for his size, but he's not going to be agile in a guy that's a lot smaller than him. Haaland's best opportunity here is to try and go up against Rafael Varane, and I'm going to be honest with you, that's no easy task. If he lines up against Martinez, Martinez is going to deal with him. Now, it is important he doesn't lose sight of him in the penalty area, or he doesn't get too tight too early, or he doesn't end up overcooking it himself. I think there's a danger in Martinez getting a bit too excited, a bit too carried away, and a bit too feisty. And I think that's just going to have to be one of those things. We saw it with Roy Keane, famously in this particular match, and we've seen it with Nemanja Vidic in big games against the likes of Liverpool. Sometimes you have a player that gives you the sort of fire you get out of a Lisandro Martinez. You have to accept the red cards that come along with that sometimes. I wouldn't like it to be this weekend, but I'm sure it's going to happen at some point where he's going to absolutely smash somebody. And it's just one of those that you have to take because you take the way he plays the game. It's the same way Rooney. Now, you can't lose sight of him inside the area because it's game over if you do that. McTominay or Casemiro, whichever it is that he decides to go with, is going to have a very important role in shielding the ball, getting into the back line and getting into Haaland's feet in the first place. One of those could occasionally come in and double up. That would give you an opportunity then for be able to, one of you be a bit more physical while the other looks to try and steal the ball. But it also helps if you can force Manchester City wide by having a lot of strength in the centre of the box. Martinez is super alert. His head is on a swivel. He knows where everybody is and he reacts to it extremely well. He's going to need to be at 10 out of 10 to deal with Haaland with the amount of opportunities Manchester City create for him. Half a yard is all Haaland needs. And he only has to be right once. Whereas Martinez is going to have to be right 5, 10, 12 times in this game to be able to make sure he stays quiet. All eyes on this battle. This is going to be key to how the game's decided. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.